So many people have asked me what brand of string trimmer I would buy, and the answer is always the same. Why would I buy one? I just have to wait for a free one to show up. And as you might have guessed, this one was given away too, but it's hard to see why. It doesn't look to be broken, and it's complete as well, so I can only hope the damage is not on the inside of the machine and it's something we can fix. So in today's video, we're going to be looking at this Ryobi branded string trimmer. And the problem is that we have no information about it, but by the way it looks, I doubt it's going to start. The first thing we need to do is take a look around the machine and see what kind of condition it's in. And the first problem is that the knob for the coupling is broken, leaving a sharp spot on it. But to be honest, a broken knob and a missing guard for the trimmer head is not going to keep this engine from running. And as expected, the purge bulb has seen better days, and that's because it should not look like this. I can't wait to try and use it because I'm pretty sure it's going to break on me. Now while we're inspecting it, this would also be a great time to find all the information we can about it, just in case we need to order parts for it. After looking inside the fuel tank, we see something in there, but it doesn't smell like fuel and it doesn't look like it either. And after pouring it out, it would seem we were right. Turns out this is water, which is not good news. I also thought the chunky bits was just corrosion, but I do believe this is what's left of the fuel filter. I guess we'll have to factor in the cost for a new one. Not only that, we'll have to add a new purge bulb as well. So at this point, we can't put fuel into the tank, but we can still do a test start though. Well, that was a bit of a surprise. I didn't expect to have it run for quite so long. Now more than likely, there must have been some leftover fuel inside the carb that the engine was probably running on. Next, we'll take out the old fuel lines, and that's when we discover something disturbing about this fuel system. So it turns out there was no fuel filter inside this fuel tank, which means unfiltered fuel could have been making its way to the carb. And if that does happen, the screen inside the carb could get clogged with debris, which there was a whole lot of in the fuel tank. That means we should probably clean the inside of the fuel tank to get rid of any remaining debris. But of course, there's more than one way to do this, so you don't have to do it the way I'm doing it here. You're also welcome to take the fuel tank off to clean it, but this way works just as well. Now if you do use water to help clean your machines, you'll need to either dry it off or allow it time to dry off before working on it. You don't have to, but you risk getting water inside the fuel system, which I hear doesn't work quite as well as fuel. Next, we'll take off the carb, that way we can inspect it for any problems. This would also be the time to consider maybe just replacing this carb, since the bulb does need replacing and the high chance of the screen being clogged as well. Now cleaning a carb isn't that hard, but sometimes you might not be able to get it working like it should be. And after taking off the pumping section, we can see the diaphragm with these check valve flaps. But if they're bent out of shape, they won't work well to pull fuel from the tank. Now these do look good, but there is quite a bit of debris behind it that we need to clean up. Next up, we'll take a look at the screen, and this is when things turn bad. Turns out the screen is completely clogged with the same debris that we found inside the fuel tank. That means more than likely they ran the machine without a filter for quite some time until the clog stopped all the fuel from flowing through the carb. But before we clean the screen, we'll take the rest of the carb apart so we can inspect the metering diaphragm. And what we find is a diaphragm that's much too stiff to work the way it should, and we'll need to replace it. No, it's not completely petrified, but it's supposed to be much softer than it is now. Now if it's still somewhat flexible, you might want to try and save it, but this process takes a lot of time, so this might not be an option for you. We're still not ready to clean the carb just yet, and that's because we need to take out the needle, spring, and the rocker arm. So yes, you are welcome to leave them in there while cleaning it, but I find it works out so much better if you take these tiny parts out. And with those parts out of the carb, we can finally start cleaning all the openings we can. Just be careful when cleaning it and not just moving dirt from one opening to a different one. We're also going to have to focus on that screen too because it's being quite stubborn. But once it is clean, make sure your cleaner can pass through the screen, otherwise you need to keep cleaning it. Not only that, make sure that the cleaner flows through the screen quickly, because if it's slow to pass through it, it'll affect how the engine runs. And once you think the carb is clean enough, we'll start to put it back together, but be very careful doing this because it's really easy to lose these tiny parts. And believe me, even when dropping these parts in the garage, it's still going to be a challenge to find them. I almost forgot to do this, but we need to clean the pumping section too. Because if we didn't clean it, some of that debris could get caught in the flaps or worse, in a small passage, and you'll have to clean it again. Now this part is much easier to clean, and that's because there's really not much to it. But what happens if you put your cleaned carb back onto the engine and it still won't start or run the way that it should? That's when you'll have to decide to either go back through the carb again or just replace it. Now typically I would just replace it, but if you have a different plan to clean it the second time around, then it might be worth it. If, however, you plan on using the same routine the second time around as the failed first attempt, then don't bother with it and just replace it. The reason I know this is because it's happened to me before. I just tried doing a better job the second time with no changes and it still didn't work. But before we install the carb, we better replace the fuel lines, but it is up to you when you choose to do it. I like to cut the lines at an angle, which will help to get them started in those tiny openings. The first line was the return line, and it needs to extend about an inch into the fuel tank. But of course, you're welcome to push more in there if you want to, but that extra fuel line is there to keep it from backing out of the tank. The last line will of course be for the filter, but this time we'll need to pull out several inches so we can attach the filter. I do have to let you know that this style of filter is not my favorite because it won't work in some styles of fuel tanks. But on this style it'll work fine, so we'll be using it here. Now this fuel line did need quite a bit of persuading to get it to fit, so keep that in mind. Once the fuel lines have been ran, we can finally install the carb. Just don't forget to attach the throttle cable because it's easy to forget. Now I didn't show it, but make sure there's a gasket between the carb and the engine, otherwise it might not start. Yes, you can also install one between the carb and the filter base, but this one didn't have one. So when connecting the fuel lines, the filter line will connect to the brass port further away from the bulb, while the return line will connect to the one closer to it. We'll then confirm that they're connected correctly when we do our flow test. So when pressing on the bulb, fuel will come up the filter line, enter the carb, fill the bulb, and then return back to the tank through the return line. And as you just saw, fuel is flowing through the lines just like it's supposed to. Now we might need to adjust the carb to get it to run correctly, and if we need to do that, we'll need a special tool. And if you need one of these, there should be a link to it in the description below the video. Now the screw on the left is the L screw, and it's for adjusting fuel at idle speeds and for squeezing the trigger. While the one on the right is the H screw, and it's for high engine speed fuel adjustment or while the trigger is fully squeezed. While the Phillips head screw above them is to help adjust the idle speed. Now to make filming just a bit easier, I'm going to remove the air filter cover, otherwise it'll be tough to see what I'm doing. As you just saw, the moment I touched the trigger, the engine stopped. This typically means it's not getting enough fuel to change speed, so we'll need to turn the L screw counterclockwise a bit. I'm also going to increase the idle speed just a bit, but we'll fine tune it once we get the engine running better. Now during that test run, I noticed the attachment is a bit loose, so we'll have to try and tighten it. I am going to let you know that what you just saw me do looked pretty easy, but it's a lot tougher to do, especially if you've never done it before. And if you do it wrong, you may never get your engine running again, so film yourself doing it, that way you can keep track of what you did and the results as well. Now, fine-tuning a carb like this one could be an entire video on its own, so I'm only showing you the basics. But a comprehensive tuning video would show you not just what you need to do, but also what happens when you do the wrong thing as well. Most consumers don't have the patience to do it, and to be honest, I don't blame them. It's not my favorite thing to do either. However, it's either this or pay someone else a lot of money to do it for me. So my question is, would you attempt to tune your own carb or let someone else do it for you? Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate your time here. Please feel free to ask me any questions about this project or about your own projects, and I hope to see you in the next video.